A human baby is born helpless, screaming, and dying within hours without constant intervention. And somehow, against every conceivable odd, our ancestors kept them alive in a world that was actively trying to kill them. You take survival for granted. Hospitals, antibiotics, baby formula. Now strip all that away. You're standing in a cave 50,000 years ago, holding a newborn who can't regulate their own body temperature, can't digest solid food, and whose immune system is basically tissue paper. Every predator within earshot heard that birth scream. The nearest clean water is a dangerous hike away. Winter is coming, and you've got maybe 2 animal skins to your name. This is the reality every human child faced for 99% of our species' existence. Most died. The ones who lived became us. The first killer was the birth itself. Modern maternal mortality is around 0.02% in developed countries. In the Paleolithic, estimates run between 1 and 3%. That means 1 in every 50 births killed the mother. 1 in 3 babies never saw their first birthday. By age 5, half of all children born were dead. These aren't abstract statistics. This was Tuesday. So how did we survive? The answer rewrites everything you think you know about parenting, community, and what it actually takes to keep a human alive. The secret weapon wasn't technology. It was milk. But not the kind you're thinking. Breastfeeding in ancient societies lasted 3 to 4 years minimum. Some anthropologists argue it stretched to 5 or 6. This wasn't a lifestyle choice. This was immune system transfer. Every drop of breast milk contained antibodies the mother had built against local pathogens. The baby was drinking customized medicine. But here's the problem. One woman can't do this alone. Childbirth wrecks the body. Recovery takes weeks. Meanwhile, the newborn needs to feed every 2 to 3 hours, around the clock. The mother needs calories, hydration, sleep. Who's gathering food? Who's maintaining the fire? Who's watching for predators? This is where alloparenting enters the story. The word sounds academic. The reality was revolutionary. Alloparenting means anyone other than the biological parents helping raise the child. Grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, even unrelated women in the group. Humans are one of the only species where this happens systematically. Chimpanzee mothers, solo operation. Wolf mothers, pack helps, but only with feeding. Human mothers, surrounded by what anthropologists call a collective rearing network. This wasn't kindness. This was infrastructure. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer groups, the closest proxies we have to Paleolithic life, show that Hadza babies in Tanzania are held by someone other than their mother 40% of the time during the first year. If babies in the Congo are held by up to 14 different people per hour. The mother is often not even in the immediate vicinity. Why? Because she's gathering, she's processing, she's surviving. The group absorbs the child the moment it's born. Grandmothers were the unsung heroes. The grandmother hypothesis argues that human menopause evolved specifically so older women could stop reproducing and focus on keeping grandchildren alive. Orca whales do this. We do this. Almost no one else does. A grandmother knows which plants are edible, which water sources are safe, how to read weather. She's lived through famines, predator encounters, disease outbreaks. She's a walking survival database, and she's not pregnant, not nursing, not distracted by an infant of her own. Her entire evolutionary purpose is to be the backup system. Data from pre-industrial Finland and Canada shows that children with living grandmothers were 30 to 50% more likely to survive to age 5. The presence of a grandmother was often the difference between a lineage continuing or going extinct. But milk and alloparenting only get you so far. The next gauntlet was infection. Before antibiotics, a scratch could kill, a tooth abscess could kill, diarrhea could kill, and frequently did. Infant diarrhea was a mass murderer in ancient populations. Contaminated water, unsterilized anything, a million invisible pathogens. So how did ancient humans fight back? Honey. The archaeological record shows humans harvesting honey at least 8,000 years ago, probably much earlier. Honey is hygroscopic. It sucks moisture out of bacterial cells, killing them. It's antimicrobial. Apply it to a wound, and infection rates drop. Feed it to a sick child, and it coats the throat, soothes inflammation, delivers calories. Honey isn't medicine by modern standards, but in a world without anything else, it was a miracle. Then there's clay. Certain types of clay, kaolin specifically, have been used across Africa, Asia, and the Americas for thousands of years to treat diarrhea. It works. The clay binds to toxins in the gut and helps slow water loss. Modern pharmaceutical companies still use it. Ancient mothers figured it out through trial, error, and desperation. Boiling water was another breakthrough, though the timeline is murky. Evidence of controlled fire goes back at least 400,000 years. But using fire to purify water? That probably came much later, after someone noticed that water from certain sources made people sick, while boiled water didn't. Correlation became practice, practice became survival. But knowledge means nothing if the child dies of cold first. Thermoregulation is a fancy word for not freezing to death. Newborns can't shiver effectively. Their body surface area is massive compared to their volume. They lose heat catastrophically fast. Skin-to-skin contact was the furnace. Mother against child, chest to chest, in constant contact. The mother's body temperature literally regulates the baby's. Too cold? Her body warms up. Too hot? It cools down. This isn't metaphor. It's measurable physiology. When the mother slept, the baby slept on her. When she walked, the baby rode against her chest or back in a sling made of hide or woven plant fiber. Separation meant death, so separation almost never happened. This is the origin of attachment parenting, though that modern term drains the stakes out of it. Ancient humans didn't attach to their babies because they read a parenting book. They did it because babies who weren't attached froze, starved, or got eaten. Predation was the nightmare scenario. Lions, hyenas, leopards, wolves. A baby's cry is a dinner bell. Fire helped. A blazing fire at the cave entrance or camp perimeter kept most predators at a distance. But fire needs fuel, and fuel runs out. Night lasts a long time, so groups slept in clusters with the most vulnerable in the center. Babies, young children, pregnant women, surrounded by a ring of adults. Predators are ambush hunters. They want easy, isolated prey. A tight cluster of humans, some awake, some armed with sharpened sticks or stones, is a much harder target. This is why humans evolved to be light sleepers. Why sudden noises wake us instantly. Why mothers, even in modern suburbs, wake at the slightest change in their baby's breathing. The ones who didn't, their children didn't make it. But even with all these strategies, children still died. Constantly. What happened then? Did grief paralyze these ancient communities? Or did they keep moving? The answer is both, and it's darker than we like to admit. Infant mortality was so common that emotional attachment likely evolved to be somewhat delayed. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer groups report that naming ceremonies often don't happen until weeks or months after birth. In some cultures, not until the child shows clear signs of thriving. This isn't cruelty, it's psychological armor. If you fully bond with every newborn and half of them die, you spend your entire life in unbearable grief. Gradual attachment is a survival mechanism for the parents, but that doesn't mean babies were disposable. Archaeological evidence shows ancient humans buried children with care, sometimes with grave goods, sometimes in positions suggesting ritual. Grief existed. It just had to coexist with the relentless practicality of survival. There's also the unspeakable, infanticide. When resources are scarce, when the group is starving, when a child is born severely disabled in a world without accommodation, decisions were made. Decisions we find monstrous now, but which kept the group alive. We don't know how common this was. We do know it happened. Skeletons don't lie, and some archaeological sites show patterns too consistent to ignore. Then came weaning, the next deadly phase. Around age 2 or 3, breast milk stops being enough. The child needs solid food, but their digestive system is fragile. Their immune system is still developing. The foods they can tolerate are limited. Pre-chewed food was the bridge. The mother or another caregiver would chew meat, tubers, nuts, breaking them down into mush, then transfer it mouth to mouth to the child. This sounds barbaric. It's also brilliant. Chewing adds saliva, which contains enzymes that start digestion. It mechanically breaks down fibers the child can't handle. It's the original baby food processor. But even with pre-chewing, weaning was dangerous. Diarrheal diseases spiked during this period. Malnutrition was common. Anthropologists call it the weaning crisis, and skeletal remains show growth disruption marks on teeth and bones, permanent records of childhood starvation that the child survived, barely. If they made it past age 5, odds improved dramatically. A 5-year-old can run, can communicate, can learn, can contribute. They're still vulnerable, but they're no longer helpless. And this is where the real genius of ancient child rearing shows up. Children were workers. By age 4 or 5, kids were gathering firewood, fetching water, watching younger siblings. By age 7 or 8, they were learning to track, forage, make tools. By adolescence, they were full contributors. There was no concept of childhood as a separate, protected phase of life. You were a small learning adult. This wasn't exploitation. It was education. Skills transfer through observation and practice. A young learner shadowing a skilled hunter learns more in a week than they'd learn in a year of classroom lectures. The group couldn't afford passengers. Everyone had to pull weight. But here's the twist. Play was part of this. Hunter-gatherer children play constantly. They wrestle, they chase, they mimic adult tasks with toy tools. This isn't downtime, it's training. Play is how you learn to throw, to stalk, to coordinate with others. It's fun because evolution made it fun. The children who enjoyed practicing survival skills practiced more, got better, survived. Disease outbreaks were the wild card. A novel pathogen could wipe out entire groups. No one understood contagion. No one understood viruses. When sickness struck, it looked like spirits, curses, bad luck. But humans learned patterns. Sick people were sometimes isolated. Corpses were buried or burned, not left to rot near the camp. Certain plants were discovered to reduce fever or ease pain. Willow bark, the origin of aspirin, was used at least 4,000 years ago. These weren't scientific breakthroughs, they were empirical ones. Try things, see what works, remember, teach. The real miracle isn't any single technique, it's the knowledge transfer. Humans are the only species where accumulated knowledge compounds across generations. A young apprentice doesn't start from zero. They start from everything the previous generation learned. Then they add to it. Then they pass it on. This is how we went from barely keeping babies alive to building civilizations. Incremental, relentless, bloody progress. But let's be clear. The ancient world was a meat grinder. For every child who survived, another was buried in an unmarked grave. For every grandmother who saved a life, another mother died in childbirth. We romanticize the past. We imagine noble savages living in harmony with nature. The bones tell a different story. Malnutrition, fractures, infections, violence, short, brutal lives. And yet, against every odd, in the harshest conditions imaginable, humans kept enough children alive that the species not only survived, but exploded. We spread across every continent except Antarctica. We adapted to deserts, tundras, jungles, mountains. We outlasted ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, and predators that were faster, stronger, and better armed than we were. We did it by keeping the next generation alive just long enough for them to keep the generation after that alive. The techniques were simple: shared care, extended breastfeeding, fire, skin-to-skin contact, honey, clay, pre-chewed food. The execution was relentless. Every baby alive today is the descendant of an unbroken chain of survivors stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Every single link in that chain faced a world trying to kill them, and every single one clawed, nursed, and fought their way through. You're here because a grandmother in 30,000 BCE knew which berries were poisonous. Because a mother in 15,000 BCE kept a fire burning through a blizzard. Because a community in 8,000 BCE didn't let a mother starve after childbirth. Your existence is the result of 10,000 desperate, brilliant, exhausting victories. And the only reason you don't think about it is because they won.